Righto, thanks, mate. All right. Qld acknowledges the traditional owners of the land where we gather, as we do so electronically. We pay respect to elders, past, present, and emerging, and we acknowledge the important roles of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples within the outdoor recreation community and on the land, sky, and waterways used for outdoor activities. I'm coming from here. I'm here in Brisbane. I'm actually in the Outdoors Queensland office today, which is a nice change in Meanjin, or as it's called now, Brisbane. So I just wanted to mention that. It's the Turrbal and Jagera people's country that I'm here on today. We also acknowledge the support provided to Outdoors Queensland and the outdoors sector by the Queensland Government. So welcome to Coffee and Conversation. My name is Dom Courtney, Executive Officer of Outdoors Queensland. Mark Squires is my co-host, and I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with Mark's wonderful work, even when he has got the Zoom on the wrong screen for some reason. Anyway, would you like to welcome all members of Outdoors Queensland, our board members, and the life members of our organisation. I think I saw Dave Batt was joining us today, so welcome, Dave. Nice to have you with us, mate. I'd also like to welcome all members of Outdoors Queensland and reps from interstate organisations. So I think Laurie's on the call too today, so welcome, Laurie. Our recordings of these sessions are publicly available on our website and on YouTube. And also, this is our last scheduled episode of what I'm calling season 1 of Coffee and Conversation. It's been a successful breakout season. We've had pretty good ratings from our audience, so it looks like we'll probably get renewed for season 2 in 2021. So we'll have a discussion later on what that production might look like in the next year. So I want to get some feedback from you guys as we go through with that. So we've got a bit of a packed agenda today, but let's just see how we go. And also but it's supposed to be that the bottom one there, any other topics for discussion is an important point. So anything else we need to talk about, let's see how we go. So yeah, we'll just get going. But yeah, if you have anything, please use the chat function, as I say every session. But also, we're not a huge group, so just unmute yourself and sing out. It's not supposed to be me droning on the whole time. But I do want to say, to start with, we are officially Outdoors Queensland. It's taken a long time coming. Our members at our special general meeting on the 11th of March voted unanimously to go ahead with this, and there's been this wonderful administrative process that we've gone through. And someone pointed out to me that some people could have had a baby in shorter time than it took for us to get the approval to go from Qld to Outdoors Queensland. So it's a pretty good effort. We finally got here. So I just wanted to flag that up front. So I don't know, maybe I need to make a 10-cent donation every time I use the word Qld, then I refer to ourselves from now on, because if it was any more than 10 cents, I'd probably be in big trouble. So yes, we are Outdoors Queensland, which is, it seems like a simple process. It should be a simple process, so it's taken a long time. But anyway, that's a little bit internal focused, I suppose, but I just wanted to flag it with you, and particularly people who are our supporters, to let you know that has been a change that we've got to. In relation to advocacy, I mentioned a couple of weeks ago that Alana Bold, our president, and I met with Minister Sterling Hinchliffe, who's the Sport Minister. That was a few weeks ago. We were there along with our colleagues from Q Sport and also Phil Reeves from AQIA. It was an intro session, letting the minister know what we do, who we do it for, and why we do it. But we also wrote to the minister to formally congratulate him on his appointment to the role. And he's just sent us a letter back yesterday and acknowledged in that letter the role that outdoor and recreation operators have played this year in bringing Queenslanders together and supporting mental health and wellbeing, which is a really good thing to see. I'm sure, he's handing out compliments to a few different industries within his portfolio, but it was just a nice thing to see acknowledged in a formal letter back from the Minister's office. So yeah, I just wanted to let you guys know that, because Outdoors Queensland didn't do that, the operators did it. So I just wanted to pass on that thank you that the Minister sent to us. Couple of opportunities. Volunteering Queensland has a survey out right now. We've promoted it on our social media and also in the last newsletter, which I'm sure you've all devoured and taken notes about. But it's all about, they want feedback from any organisation that has volunteers working for them, and it actually closes today. So I just wanted to flag that one. So that's an opportunity just to feed in some information. And it's the first time I think the Volunteering Queensland's done a statewide survey. So it is a good opportunity. What they're trying to do is paint the picture of what volunteering actually means for our society in Queensland. So it's a really good opportunity. I've certainly got to find, I think it's only 10 or 15 minutes that I have to find that time and actually do it today for Outdoors Queensland. So that's on my list of things to do today to complete the survey. So I just wanted to give that a quick plug as well. And I'm not sure, Mark might have popped in there the link to that one. So just have a look at the chat too as I go along. David, thank you for your comments, for including a struggling Mexican. No worries, it's always been good to have you here, mate. The other opportunity for feedback, and this one's got a much longer amount of time to do it. Brisbane City Council's released its off-road cycling strategy. It's only been released this morning. And at the moment, I know we're Outdoors Queensland, but this is a big one as far as the capital city. In Brisbane right now, the only place you can ride on council land on single track is Mount Coot-tha. So one reserve across our capital city. So this strategy actually makes changes to that. Also, it's a draft strategy, and it's out for public consultation right now until the end of February. So they're opening it up for quite a decent amount of time. I'll probably mention this again in future, but I just wanted to flag it because it's only just been released. They've flagged some opportunities to make some changes, which is great. And I think it's a big step forward for Brisbane City Council. So I really just wanted to publicise that. And they're saying that the final strategy will be released mid to late next year. So, and then it's obviously implementation. So just wanted to flag that one with everyone. That's the quote there straight from their website. They have had a lot of talk about making sure they balance cycling with environmental concerns for the natural spaces. And I've been making the space to them, the point to them, which they accept, is that getting people outdoors is actually a way of building the future advocates for those spaces as well. So they've been quite accepting of that. And yeah, it's been some good conversations with Brisbane City Council that have come out of that process. The reason it is actually really important that we have those sort of things from Brisbane City Council particularly is they are a leader as far as councils go. Their budget alone is, I think, about the same as as Tasmania and South Australia put together. So financially, they're a big player as far as a land manager as well. So it is an important organisation to be engaging with. So I'm glad that we can do that. But we've got some information on our website about that as well. So have a look at that. The next one, very exciting, but important field of insurance. So the Australian Small Business and Family Enterprise Ombudsman, which we promoted this survey, this inquiry that they were running earlier in the year, quite a few times. They've just released their report this week. So the report on their website, they specifically say they found widespread market failure regarding availability and affordability of small business insurance products, which is not a surprise, but it's obviously disappointing that that is in there. And there's a whole heap of recommendations in that report. So it's worth having a look at. Hopefully the federal government will actually take that on board and make some make some changes that will actually make it improve the situation for small businesses, particularly. But yeah, it's certainly, I think, from just a quick skim read of that report, it seems there was some pretty harrowing stories told to the inquiry, to the Ombudsman. So I think it's obviously a good thing that people were able to tell what, those true stories of what's going on out there. So I just wanted to flag that one as well. And there's the information there. There's a link on the to that report or to the inquiry itself, and there's links to the report on that page.
I'll add that link to the email that comes out later on today as well.
Thanks, Mark. I just had the Queensland COVID Safe Future, which is what was called the roadmap. We're at stage 6, so which is I think an important point to understand. There has been further easing of restrictions, particularly the restrictions on travel. So the relaxation of travel restrictions is actually really important to our sector, particularly those in the adventure tourism areas, as we're getting into the summer holiday programs. So I'm not sure right now, and someone on the call might be able to update me what the situation is with the South Australian local government areas. I'm not sure if anyone is aware of that. I thought it was going to be reopened shortly, but it might have already opened to Adelaide as far as not having to do the quarantine. Is anyone aware of that one?
Tomorrow morning, I believe, Saturday, the borders are reopened to all of South Australia.
Oh, cool. So that means it's all of Australia?
I think there's just a bit of argy-bargy between Western Australia and South Australia, but that's the only border that's closed. But yeah, Queensland is reopening to South Australia tomorrow, is my understanding.
Awesome. Okay. And I saw on the news this morning, we're also opening to New Zealand to come into Queensland, to fly directly into Queensland as well. But I think people need to quarantine when they fly back to New Zealand. So that's probably not going to make everyone stay for Christmas. But yeah, I think that's effective tomorrow morning as well. So it's great to see the borders reopening, and I guess it's again about that COVID safe future and whatever that new normal is, with all of those little points along the bottom of the screen there that it talks about as far as what the new normal is and what it's made up of. So yeah, I think we've certainly learnt a lot this year as far as that goes. Just on the industry plans, I wanted to flag too, we're actually at version 17 of both the Outdoor Recreation Activity Providers Plan and version 17 of the Outdoor Education Providers Plan. Now, because I've got a slightly unusual mind, I actually really like that symmetry that we're at version 17 of both of them. But it's disappointing in a way, because what it means is we've had so many different versions of these plans that people have had to adjust their operations to, and have had to go in and update their operational plans to make sure that they were right. But I do want to just say a big thank you to everyone who has, as we've gone along, has made those changes. Some of the changes I think were really as a result of the relaxation, so they were very positive. There are other changes that they were just reactionary, I think, to different points as we went along. But I just wanted to say a big thank you to everyone. As I said, this is the last session of the year, hopefully. If we don't need another one next week, we won't have one. But there has been so much change this year, so I just wanted to mention that. The fact that we're at version 17 of these two different plans is probably an indicator of that in its own. But well done to everyone who has been involved in contributing to the updates, but also in implementing the various industry plans, and not just our ones, the other industry plans that so many people were involved with as well. So thank you for all your work on that. The COVID Safe Plan for Outdoor Rec Activity Providers, there were a couple of changes made in the latest version, so since version 16. about the indoor events being able to allow up to 100% of seated capacity if patrons are in ticketed allocated seating. So previously that was only for major sports stadiums. So that's like, you know, Lang Park or the Gabba or other stadiums across the state. But now it's any indoor ones as long as it's ticketed seating. So they're at 100%, which I think is a good development. It's showing trust in the process, I suppose. And the other one is this statement that's encouraging masks where it's not possible to physically distance. And I understand that that's when you're not on the field of play, which is a terminology used in the industry plan. So that's really for masks if you can't physically distance as spectators or even when entering and leaving the venue. So that's the sort of thing there. So that's one that has just been added in. So I'm trying to get a bit more information about that. But that lines up with what the Chief Health Officer for Queensland has actually said about mask wearing being encouraged where possible if we can't be physically distant from different people. So any queries on those ones? Nope. Okay. So the other one, the outdoor ed provider plan, it hasn't had any changes since our last meeting, certainly even since I think the 17th of November. But what we have done, we've actually gone back to Sport and Rec for now and asking them to go to Queensland Health and seeking a few more changes or clarifications. So I've got that list on the screen there. So the clarification about saying clarification that the plan applies to just to groups of adults, regardless of whether there are school-aged children present. And this is a question we've only had a couple of times, but it's a logical thing, but I just wanted to make sure it's actually in the plan. And the other one, that the clarification that accommodation protocols in the plan can be used for music camps, faith-based camps, and sporting camps. And that one came as a result of some centres have had bookings for, it could be a sporting camp, but they've had confusion about, well, could they use the industry plan protocols for accommodation, particularly the dining rooms and also if they're a group of kids, the accommodation, the sleeping arrangements, can that actually be applied based on the outdoor ed plan, even though they're coming there to do a sporting activity? So it does seem a bit silly that the same accommodation provisions couldn't be applied depending on the activities that the kids did during the day. So we've asked to have that clarified in there as well. So I've asked not to have that done straight away, because I said it can also have an effect for, it's not just about school camps, this is about holiday camp programs as well for different activities. So that's in there. And the other one's there about venue staff being able to service multiple client groups, and then relaxation on cleaning and hygiene protocols. I don't know how we're going to go with all of those requests, and I'm not sure when they'll get back to us on it, but we'll just have to wait and see. But if anyone has any questions on those ones, I'm happy to have a chat about it too.
Just a comment on the plan. It refers to school-aged children, not school-aged students. So my interpretation of that is it's broader than just school camps, because it refers to children rather than student. Yeah,
that's a fair point. I guess the question, the bit I'm trying to get very clear in there is that it is specifically called an outdoor education. It's the plans for outdoor education providers. So I'm trying to get it crystal clear that just because if someone's coming to do a basketball camp at a venue, that this plan can be applied. And that's why I've specifically put in there sporting camps or faith-based camps or music camps. So trying to get it absolutely certain in there. But like I say, I'm not sure when this is all going to go through, and I'm sort of conscious that I imagine the Queensland Health people are going to be taking a bit of leave over the next few weeks, considering they've had a bit of a big year too. So I'm not sure what the timeline's going to be on it, but I just wanted to get that clarification and get it certain. All right. Any other questions or queries? Comments? Nope.
Oh, look, just what Tanya says, that like she's applied the interpretation of school-aged children for a holiday camp. I'd say that's happening all over the place this week. So
yeah. And I mean, this is
we're not doing it because we haven't got camps at the moment, but I'd imagine anyone running a school holiday camp has applied that interpretation.
yeah, and that was deliberate in our wording. Like we had that in there, but I think it's just a matter of making sure of it that we go, you know, that it is what it's about. There's also some work being done in relation to the industry plans by Queensland Health. So they're looking at whether how the industry plans are going to work in the future and what they're going to look like. And one of the things they have said is they're talking about simplifying them. So we'll have to wait and see what that looks like. But I understand, and I don't know if it's started yet, but there was talk about they were going to do a pilot simplified version of the industry plan with the places of worship industry plan. I don't know, Andrew, if you've heard anything about that one, but it mightn't have started yet. Maybe they're going to wait until after, you know, Christmas celebrations and that sort of thing, particularly, I suppose. But yeah, there's talk about changes to the industry plan system as a whole. So we'll have to wait and see on that one.
The places of worship one has been very interesting because my understanding is a lot of the industry plans have been industry led, whereas the perception on the places of worship one is it's been very much government controlled. So I'm trying to be diplomatic here. Let's just say that, you know, the guys I talk to look across at how our industry plan has gone forward and how much input we have through CORF, and they're very, very envious of what we have. So that's probably just a thank you and well done. But yeah, the places of worship one has been a very, very interesting industry plan. So
okay, well, I wonder if that's part of the reason they're using it as a pilot, that maybe they've recognised that and they need to do it.
Yeah, it could be. They might. Yeah, it would be helpful if they, had a wider liaison process, because it's a very broad industry, that one, because it's not just covering churches, it's covering all faiths and all sorts of things, and there's a lot of diversity, obviously.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Okay. Well, we'll wait and see on that. I'll keep everyone informed. Obviously, that's part of what we do. But once we know more about that, we'll let everyone know. But yeah, I think hopefully, if it does come to that, what I've been told, the model they're talking about is the consistent stuff could go in one spot, like on the government website, but industry-specific stuff might be on one page, you know, on a few pages in each industry plan, like cutting it from, I think we're at 40 odd pages for the outdoor rec plan, maybe down to 3 or 4, which would be awesome, because it would distill it down to what are the industry specific protocols that we really need. Whereas a lot of the stuff in there, they're pretty much the same if you go from one plan to another within reason. So we'll just see what comes of that. I think it is timely. It's just, I'm very conscious that everyone's sort of got their systems going and they know that they're working in accordance with the industry plan. And if the industry plan takes a big curveball step, that's not even a word, but if it makes huge changes, then the industry needs time to adjust to it and needs to have feedback into what this is actually going to mean. So don't worry, we'll stay on top of that. That's part of our gig. And speaking of implementation of COVID Safe Plans, I just wanted to flag, and I've probably said this for the last few sessions, ask the question, if there are any other issues regarding the protocols in the current plans, please let us know. Not as can be now, but it doesn't have to be right now. And we're still sort of, just a reminder, still on that SR _COVID-19 email address for girly questions. You can send them to me, but it's also worth copying in the government people because they are quite responsive to any queries, and also the public health unit as far as proactive site visits is a good option still. So yeah, and if you do come up against any weird protocols in there, please let me know, and I'm happy to have a discussion about any of that stuff, which is some of the things that we have requested relaxations on or changes have come directly from discussions. We're just trying to scratch our heads and work out how the industry plan protocols are affecting everyone out in the sector and in the industry. So it is an important thing as far as you guys give me the ability to actually go to Sport and Rec and go to Queensland Health and ask for those changes. So it's not just me dreaming stuff up, which would be dangerous for all of us. The world of COVID safe events. We're at 1,500 attendees in Queensland permitted per event at outdoor events. This text here is straight from their government webpage. And then I don't get the next one. It says 1,000 attendees per day at multi-day events. So there's a little bit of a double one. So, and then they say if a multi-day event involves on-site accommodation, including camping, COVID safe event plans required regardless of the number. So that's just an important distinction. That's why I copied that text straight off the government webpage, because what they're saying there is if you've got any camping, any accommodation at your event, then you've got to have your event plan. So you don't have to lodge it, you just have to have it. So that's just an important distinction there. So, but they have updated their frequently asked questions, which are really good for events. So I'd really, recommend having a look at those frequently asked questions and going from there. But yeah, there's some important information about events for anyone who's organising events. It's worth checking out that information on the government website. Righto. Coffee and conversation next year. I'm assuming the interest will continue to keep these going, and I've suggested season 2, episode 1 will be at 11 a.m. Queensland time, obviously, Friday the 15th of January. So we actually get a month off from you guys having to put up with me. But yeah, so that's sort of what we're looking at. And we're looking still at sticking to the fortnightly sessions, and we'll reassess. And we might even go to monthly depending on what's going on. But I guess my question I have, and like to open this up, is, what would you guys like to see from these sessions in what I'm calling season 2? I'm hoping it's a shortened season, that it doesn't have to be all about COVID. It could be about what else is going on out there in the sector. And some of these sessions have been about that, but obviously the reaction to COVID has been, I think it's been a recurring theme throughout season 1. I think you could say that. But yeah, I guess I wanted to, maybe if people wanted to have a think about what you'd like to see from these sessions as we head into season 2, I'd love to hear that. Sort of, if anyone has any ideas now, or even if you want to have a think about it, we might have a decent session in that first one back. But if anyone has any ideas, please go for your life.
Dom, it's Tanya here. How are you?
Hey, Tanya. Good, thanks.
I have skipped a couple, sorry. So you may have covered some of these, but I was just thinking it's more, and probably David Maskell's just noted that too, like post the pandemic, I hope. Some of those sessions covering, where we're at now, and I don't know about other centres, but, the JobKeeper's pulling back, and all of those industry supports are pulling back. And so how's the industry recovering, and how are we going? And then I don't know if this has happened for others, but certainly for us, the impact of that JobKeeper and reflecting on what that means. And for us, it's actually meant a bit more contact with Fair Work or HR or, industry plans, and, not to do with COVID, but just generally, and insurance and some of the things you've mentioned. So they're topics that certainly are hot for us in terms of just reviewing what's ended up happening of this, is us going back and reviewing our industrial relations and HR and insurance and processes. And I wonder if that's something that's of interest to others.
Any other comments on that one, or other topics that you think other people think would be valuable in these sessions? No, happy for people to have a think about it and just have a bit of a, we might have, like I said, we might dedicate 10, 15 minutes in that first session back and just say, you know, what do you really want to see from these sessions, and even on timing and delivery of them, happy to make changes as we go along. So if we need to work with what works for other people. So
Dom, I sort of mentioned it in the Outdoors New South Wales one. The fact that we're going to probably have a more transient staffing population who might move between potentially 3 states with different COVID safe plans. I think there's a lot of value inside the outhouse that I'm a member of. We cover a lot of these topics and have covered them throughout the pandemic, and we'll probably revisit them in 2021. We are coming back as a group. But I think there's definitely a place, given that yourself as Outdoors Queensland Zoom session and the New South Wales one being the only sessions that I'm aware of nationally that are doing stuff that are focused on industry updates and a diverse range of interests. I think you could potentially broaden your scope out to more than just Outdoors Queensland and look at other areas where with a diverse industry movement of staff between states because of lack of staffing and lack of people now in the industry, it might be worth addressing that in some way. Just an idea. We're going to try and cover it in the outhouse as well, but we're also going to a 2-week format.
Okay. Yeah. So I guess the only problem, we can do that. And it might be that it could be some of the other issues that might be happening in other states. It's probably just a matter of getting the right person to speak to them, because obviously I wouldn't be, want to speak to what's going on in other places, but it could even be, a bit of an update, even if it's just monthly, about what, I'm also as president of the Outdoor Council of Australia, and it could just be an OCA update as well of what's going on there as far as taking the pulse for the outdoor sector nationally as well. So happy to have a look at doing something like that as well. Thanks.
That's what I'm thinking. Yeah, again, all of these Zooms are into about less than 20 people who are jumping in every week to look at that. You're probably getting a lot of people watching them afterwards or potentially scanning for content. And we've found that with the outhouse Zooms, people are a bit zoomed out and are back to work. So it's harder to get people to come in at different times, regardless of when you set your time frame and try and hit your market share. But I think between our organisation and Outdoors Queensland and Outdoors New South Wales, we should be embracing South Australia more. And the NT, we've heard nothing about what they're doing there. And getting those folks, the heads of those recreational peer bodies, into a Zoom meeting would definitely generate more interest and more connection. And I guess, again, my grassroots format being the priority here is like getting the information that the facilitators who are traveling to other states might need when they're traveling to New South Wales and they need to take a mask to get on public transport like I did last week. Yeah, that's the type of stuff that's really useful to people in the field, I think, whether it's recreation or education.
Yep. That's a good point. So, and I think, maybe we need to look at that, the national picture but some of that detail, it seems like it's almost local government areas as well and that sort of thing. So maybe it's just a matter of what we can and having to think about what we can do and some of it, where we go with some of these systems and how we can improve them. So that's great. Thank you for that. I just saw Tanya's session, activity standards, training, workplace health and safety, post JobKeeper. Yeah, and that's an interesting one right now. Like I know of organisations who have already are no longer receiving JobKeeper because obviously the system's changed over time. So there's some organisations who are already moved out of the JobKeeper eligibility. Yeah, and HR and industrial relations is obviously always a big one for the outdoors outdoor sector. I guess every organisation across the country. So yeah, thank you for that. And Mark just put a comment there. Feel free to email any ideas through. And Mark's put his email address in there. David Maskell, does the first episode feature Dom waking up and realising 2020 was all a dream and the pandemic never happened? Mate, that would be good, but then my scary thought would be, does that mean we've got to go back through 2020 and something else might come at us? Like,
you're obviously not a Dynasty fan.
No, I'm not a Dynasty person, sorry. But I did see that the Japanese retrieved, they blew up an asteroid the other day and grabbed a lump of rock and brought that back and landed it in South Australia. And I was thinking, surely you wait until the new year to do that. Like, it's just not necessary during 2020 to be bringing space rocks home right now, I think. So I'm just a little bit scared of what could happen if we was all a dream, mate. It hasn't felt like a dream to me. I just noticed Andrew's comment there, going back to reality, about the draft standards open for comment on the Standards Australia. I knew they were coming, I didn't realise they were already open. So thank you, Andrew. So that's for artificial climbing structures and challenge courses, both parts of them. So yeah, that's just in the chat there. So that's definitely worth a mention. I didn't know they had been open for comments. So Andrew, do you know how long they're open for?
Yeah, just put it up there, 6th of February 2021.
Okay.
CBA just sent the email out on that today, so it's fairly recent. Comment start date 5th of the 12th, 2020, and close 6th of the 2nd, 21.
Right. Well, there's another opportunity, although you'll find that date will come along pretty quickly. So I was happy that Brisbane City Council's off-road cycling strategies got until the end of February, because obviously there's a few weeks get lost between now and the 6th of Feb. So those who are interested in the climbing structures and challenge courses standard, I think it's going to be worth having a look at that and getting some comments together sooner rather than later, I'd imagine. But it's not like there's anything else going on right now. So just another task to add to the list. So
I was wondering if that'd be a good focus suggestion as well for January, maybe.
Might be, mate. Maybe we see if we can't get someone to come along and have a chat about what the proposed changes are and what it all means. So yeah, that's a good one. Yeah, I think that's obviously relevant to so many people, as far as one of those standards is about well, they're both about safety requirements and test methods. So, but the one specifically about the bouldering structures, I think that might be getting more and more relevant as bouldering becomes more popular, particularly in the artificial world. So, yeah, that might be a good one to have a session on. So, Mark, we might have a chat about that later and see who we can't line up.
Yeah, sure. Good idea.
Yeah. So it sounds like there is demand for the season to be resumed, which is a good start. So we'll just we'll look at that, and I think that Friday the 15th will be yeah, obviously episode 1. Yeah, thank you for your feedback, and yeah, I think that those standards is a good option. So that's pretty much it. We've ripped through the agenda, which I thought was going to be a bit of a monster agenda today. But yeah, I might just stop my screen sharing so you can actually see each other. And just happy to have a bit of a chat. And if there's any other questions or comments, yeah, feel free. Just even, as far as what's going on for you guys and what you're looking at, what you think 2021 is going to bring our way. Happy to just have a general chat. Tanya's just put in the chat, 2021's very busy. Yep. I don't know when we've ever thought next year's going to be lovely and quiet, but yeah, the busyness of our business, it's just one of those things, I think, Tanya. And I guess it's good if we're busy, we're doing a good job, and we've got people, genuinely interested in what we're offering. So, but yeah, very busy, and capitals might be a bit scary sometimes. And Dave, go.
Dom, I'll just plug again a small dedicated audience here. The American Camping Association are having their conference, which is an international conference, early February. I've actually looked up the website for the details since the last Zoom meeting. It's about $445 US, which is quite steep if you're not a member. Membership and packaging that is pretty cheap, but it's all virtual. And the early bird for that cuts off the 16th of December, which is why I'm mentioning it to the group today. There's the link in the chat for everyone. I went and attended the Association of Experiential Education's conference, and that was really worthwhile. Lots of late nights, lots of early mornings, but it was great material. Some of it was pandemically related, but a lot of stuff about resilience, training, and the ACA is very relevant to a lot of outdoor ed providers in Queensland who deliver outdoor rec and outdoor education, because a lot of summer camps do exactly the same thing. They're running summer camps as their primary business, but then also running shoulder seasons of outdoor education. So if you've got a couple of $100 and a couple of really late nights in February that you can schedule in, I'd recommend looking at it and jumping on to get an early bird discount. If they do the same as the AEE, most of the workshops, I would say, will be recorded, and you'll be able to access them in a more reasonable time zone, even though you're not participating, which is what I'm currently doing. I'm watching lots of AEE conference sessions and workshops that I wasn't able to attend about 3 weeks ago. So have a look. I don't get an endorsement or a kickback. I'm just doing a bit of promotion there because we've had an industry without any PD this year. So it's good to pick it up where you can, especially in the sort of early part of our off season, right before we come back to work. Traditionally is when they run their conference. So it sort of works for our timing right before schools come back.
Thanks, mate. And I didn't give Inside the Outhouse a plug today purely because I know it's on summer break. But it'd be great to see what comes of that networking opportunities in the new year as well, as far as going fortnightly, as you said. And
we're gonna come back, go to a fortnightly format just to have a little bit less of a burden. Possibly looking for more people to get involved as part of the management team, and looking for funding and grants perhaps to help offset some of the costs. But we feel the connection that these Zoom meetings, even though people are going, too many Zoom meetings, the fact that we can meet people and engage with people from all over the country. And in the current case, we've got a South African guy who comes in every week now. So we're an international Zoom meeting. And I've had, inquiries from AEE, from our American colleagues going, how are you guys doing it in Australia? We'd love to hear from you more about these COVID safe plans. And we're thinking about one of our first discussion topics would be how to help other countries and their outdoor ed sectors get back to being on their feet. But yeah, watch this space, insidetheouthouse.org.
Thanks, Mark. Does anyone else have any other things you want to have a chat about, or just as an opportunity? You've got a few minutes left. I guess there's a few people saying thank you for the work that we've done. I guess that's our job. That's what QF has done for the last 20 odd years. It's what Outdoors Queensland is here to do from Wednesday onwards. So we genuinely, we appreciate the thanks that we've got, but also I think it's the sort of thing like Inside the Outhouse has just started doing as a community-based organisation, a group of people who wanted to help people. That's a great thing that's happened this year. But as the peak body, we it's like, how do we work with Inside the Outhouse to get that, to I guess amplify the effect of what's going on, and how do we help the industry? So yeah, just it's nice for people to say thank you for what we do, but it's also we're only doing it because we recognise the important roles that all the operators play right across outdoor recreation, outdoor education, venture therapy, adventure tourism worlds. So the whole outdoor sector, it's a pretty positive place to work. And I think that's probably the best part of what we've been doing, is helping you guys do your good things. And yeah, that's really my takeout from this year. The collaboration that has been shown right across the outdoor sector and, you know, further beyond that has been really impressive. And that's probably the biggest thing that I've taken away from this year, that sense of collaboration and a bit of, well, we're all in this together. How do we actually work out where we're going? I think I said way back, this thing's a marathon, not a sprint. It's certainly involved quite a lot of what felt like sprinting moments throughout the marathon. So I think everyone's a little bit weary now. And the other problem we've had with this marathon, generally, you know, when you start a marathon, and I've done 2 of them in my life, and the 2's enough. But you usually know where the finish line is. So it's 42.2 kilometres away from the starting point. And on this marathon, it seemed like the finish line just is on the horizon all the time. And that's the scariness of what we've been through. But we've kept getting closer and closer to that finish line, I think. And we've gone a long way. I think if you look back, actually, Mark and I had a look at the presentation we did for one of these in March. April, I think it was, Mark. But anyway, it was a fairly bare bones sort of presentation of, yeah, don't really know, but let's have a chat about some of this stuff. And it was, I think it was the second session that we did. And maybe I couldn't even find the presentation for the first one. Maybe I didn't even save it properly. I don't know. But it's been a really full-on year as far as working it out as we go along, but also the input that, and a lot of people who are on this call today have had to all of this process has been really impressive. So I just wanted to say a big thank you.
Don, how do we visualize taking this to the next step in terms of the connectedness that the pandemic has brought us all by being in Zooms or in virtual spaces? How do we connect more with the people who are definitely at grassroots level? And I'm not asking you directly, I'm asking the room how people feel that that's best achieved in a uncertain workplace environment that seems to be looking big, but lots of jobs. And last week I was at this site in Sydney, and one person out of 25 knew about my podcast and my Inside the Outhouse. He was an influential person within the team, but none of the field staff knew about that. And again, I'm going with the idea of how do we connect these people who are on the periphery of, who deliver the programs that we all work for and work within, whether it's outdoor rec or outdoor rec, but how do we connect them more to our greater community and the support services that Queensland Outdoors and Outdoor New South Wales and Inside the Outhouse all provide to them in a bigger way? Has anyone got any impressions on that?
I would say, I'm happy for anyone to have a comment on that, but it's one of the things that we're actively looking at as Outdoors Queensland. How do we engage better, not just with our membership, but with everyone who's got a touch point into the outdoors in Queensland? So as far as all the people and volunteers, particularly the workers in the sector, but also just the general public. Like, how do we have more people understand that, access to these spaces isn't just a magic thing that someone like Dave Batt in his long career just dreamt up that it'd be good to have a trail somewhere. It was based on, decision-making process. I'm sure Dave sometimes did just dream stuff up, but also there's opportunities, I think, in there of trying to connect better with so many different people in there. And part of it is we need to have a good hard look at the way we do stuff, and making sure what we're presenting is accessible for more people. So it's not just, and that's part of the reason we recorded these things and plonk them online, so that, this can be a resource for anyone. But again, maybe we need to look at, does it need to be an hour long? There's, talk about short and sweet. I must say, when I see a Netflix TV series and the episodes are half an hour, I'm much more likely to start that one than when the episodes are an hour long. And maybe that's just me, but if we start learning from some of the addiction that Netflix has managed to do this year, maybe we need to look at some of that sort of stuff, make some messaging shorter and sweeter. And TikTok videos, I haven't gone there, mate, but I just saw that in the chat. But yeah, no, I'm not sure I'm up to that, but maybe that'll get pushed on me. I'm not sure. We'll have to have a good hard look at it. So Andrew Grant thinks it's a 12-inch mix. So just looking at Tanya's comment too, about it can be confusing to know who to connect with and which resources to access. So the Outdoors Australia, so the Outdoor Council of Australia, it does have a website, but it is sadly, the organisation that I'm the president, it is under-resourced. We don't have any financial support at all from government at the moment. So that's something we need to, as an organisation, need to seriously address. So and Laurie's on the board there, I saw, so she's working with me on that sort of stuff as well. So how do we do that? It's been a challenge for a long time as far as the OCA, but yeah, I think it's all the different peak bodies, but also how do we get an Australia-wide peak body that's effective and representative of the entire sector? Because it is an important role that we play for the whole industry.
So Dom, it's Tanya. Sorry, I just thought I'd just expand on that. Thank you, because I am like a psychologist by trade and not an outdoor educator. And so when I first started in psychology, we had all of the state registration boards, which then amalgamated, which wasn't perfect, but we're all under ARPA now. And so, and we've got our peak body, which is the Australian Psychological Society, which is split a little bit. There's two now, but it's a little bit easier to find the resources. I think if you're looking for a psychologist or trying to find a registered psychologist, it was a bit easier. But when I was coming into outdoor ed, it was like, okay, there's so many different, what's the difference with Australian camps or, core for the outdoor education. And I was literally meeting with people. I'm like, I don't even know what this outdoor education association is. Like, I was just like, what's this one? Is another one? And so, and it's great that there's so many different ones out there, but it was just like, for example, for safety and training, then you just know you would go to this, to this one place, and this is the place and peak body you would go to. Well, I just found even just employing staff, it's like, which award do I use? Like, can't you just have something that says psychologist? No, you've got like multiple awards. And so from everything from top to bottom, it was just, and still is, but I mean, it's obviously a bit better for me now. So confusing to know which resource to tap into.
Yep.
So I'm just flagging it. So
yep.
I'm just thinking, because I'm newer, like I'm only been the last 5 years, I'm newer into this industry, and it's you've got such great resources and support there, but it is hard to navigate.
Yeah, and sometimes there's too much resources, which is a strange situation to be in. But like, we have so much information on our website, and Mark and I were just looking the other day at that sort of setup, and a lot of it is invaluable stuff, but some of it doesn't get accessed very often, but that doesn't mean it's not worth maintaining it. So, yeah, I agree, Tanya. It can be extremely challenging as far as understanding that. And this is, a lot of the time when those resources, you want it, you don't know when you're going to need it, but you're going to need it at some point. And that's sort of the position we've taken as far as the resources on our website. But also, even as an organisation, as far as membership, that's a challenge that the board's certainly looking at right now, is the value proposition that Outdoors Queensland makes for all of our members. And I feel like we've certainly delivered for the outdoor sector this year, but it's also about how do we make sure we keep delivering right through. So it's been a challenging year, but it's also about what we're looking at the future. But yeah, thanks, Laurie. Thanks for joining us again. We did let you cross the border into Queensland soon, but yeah, we'll the waters are opening up a bit more. Hopefully we'll see you face to face sometime soon.
And you're allowed down here too. We'll see you soon. Bye, guys.
Bye, Laurie.
Dom, is there? Do you think there's scope for doing some of the face-to-face stuff that OEAQ did recently in Far North Queensland in regards to having a Fools Forum 1-2 day workshop to get people in the industry, both across recreation and education together, jump in, jump out type sessions that might be anything from climbing session at Kangaroo Point to talking about insurance, face-to-face issues, given that we can now actually meet in person in general senses. I know OEAQ do their thing once or twice a year, and it's very well supported in far north Queensland. I think it's a little bit less supported in the southeast. Andrew might have a comment on that, but do we need to be utilising the people that are currently interested in that stuff and having more face-to-face meetings that we can structure that's on topics that are timely for people in the southeast that we can get together and thrash this stuff out. Zoom's great, but it's better to see people and have coffees together.
Yeah, and it's certainly something we've just been looking at too, of what face-to-face forums will we look at having next year, but also what things will we do even as it continue with the Zoom option. So, and some of it might be you do both. It's a bit of a hard balancing act, but I think there will be opportunities. Definitely, I've missed the face-to-face opportunities this year. Like we had a forum in March just before our AGM. And with that was the 11th of March when we had the AGM. We had a forum here in Brisbane. Other than that, Mark went to the Fools Forum last week up in Cairns, the week before. That's it. That's pretty much what we've done this year, other than a million Zoom meetings, obviously.
Mark, can you talk to, like, it was 45 people at the Fools Forum, wasn't it? Like, why was there so many people from far north Queensland involved? Was it just because there's been no connection this year and there was a desire to have it, or was it the content?
Oh, I think it was a mix, actually. I think that the far north at times feels a little isolated, and if they get an opportunity to get together, they do. It seems to be quite a tight community from what I can see. A lot of people know each other. Darren, what's his name?
Osmond.
Thank you. Yes, Darren Osmond, who kind of drove it. I think he worked pretty hard to get people along. But even he was surprised in the end how many did turn up. I think they numbers sort of doubled in the last couple of days. And yeah, content is good. It was varied. And I think that people appreciate more the chance to get together and chat rather than the specific content. So I've been to 3 of them up there now over the last X number of years, and they've all been similarly well attended and well supported. But I should say, I gave a short presentation about Outdoors Queensland and what we do and so on. And I also mentioned Inside the Outhouse as well, actually, funnily enough, and asked the question, who knows of Inside the Outhouse and who gets the Outdoors Queensland newsletter and so on. And probably less than a third knew of both of what we do and what you do. So that was quite interesting too.
We've been discussing this, I guess, internally within our group. We think it's about branding and about marketing, and that we need to do both of those things stronger next year to get more eyeballs. We're not getting money for it, but just to feel that, like, we might get 10 people to a discussion in the Zoom, but we might get 300 views on a video. It might only be a few minutes, but then how do we pare that video down to a 3-minute TikTok video or a YouTube video that's going to be watched for the content that's key to people engaging? And so, we're looking at all that stuff, but it's very difficult. But face-to-face seems to be the way to go. I was just wondering, having spoken to Laurie at the end of the Outdoors New South Wales session just earlier about the struggle they're going to have to get the national conference up next year for lots of different reasons. I'm really concerned if we don't have a national gathering next year or a state-based gathering that's significant, that the industry will lose connectedness beyond Zoom meetings, which again are being attended by 10 people. Yeah. Not trying to be negative or a downer at the end of a pandemic year, but we need to be thinking about this stuff over Christmas and come back with like, here's some solutions and here's what we're going to really plan, COVIDly safe, and planning that the COVID issues won't come back, so we can actually meet in a room or at a cliff's edge or whatever it might be. But having some definite plans and some calendar stuff and trying to calendar that stuff so it's not happening the first week of term 1, on a Tuesday, because nobody will come. At least nobody who should come.
Nobody in the outdoor education world will come.
Yeah,
one of the challenges we have is trying to find times and dates that work for the broader sector, not just education. But you talked about branding, man. That's part of the reason why we're now Outdoors Queensland, is because it's more accessible and more immediately obvious as to what we're about. And one of the other challenges too, of course, is that Queensland is a very big state, and unlike New South Wales, where Sydney's sort of plonked in the middle, we're Brisbane's in the bottom southeast corner. So you're really doing things online, or a mixture of online and face-to-face, I think is probably the way forward, because it gives more people an opportunity to get together
Just a quick
without the
comment
issues
about
of traveling long distances. Yeah, sorry, who's that?
Tom Vaughan from Brisbane Bushwalkers.
Yeah,
yeah, look, just a comment about the Zoom meetings versus face-to-face. When this all started and we weren't allowed to bushwalk and we weren't allowed to have meetings at our hall, we decided to continue the committee meetings online. It took a bit of working out because we've got a few older people who aren't that computer savvy. And then we found that when we started doing that, we had people who were bushwalking interstate were able, committee members were able to join in the committee meeting, even though they weren't in the state. And we found that, a lot of people busy at work, couldn't make it to the meeting, were able to get home and Zoom in. And then, of course, when we were allowed to, we had our AGM in October, and it wasn't very well supported because people weren't used to going out of their house. And of course, next year, we're going to have the meeting in the hall for the AGM, but we're also going to throw up a screen and have people be able to log into that through Zoom. So it's interesting because a lot of times we have committee meetings and, we've got people walking overseas or interstate who can't be at the meetings. But on one of the meetings, I was volunteering on Moreton Island, and I had to walk out onto the beach to pick up a tower at Amity Point, and was still able to attend the committee meeting at 7 o'clock at night, even though I was on Moreton Island without very good reception. So even though, you don't have that face-to-face, and when you can get together for a face-to-face, quite often you have more people involved simply because you're doing it online as well.
Yeah, and also the distance thing. So, particularly, this is one that I think we need to get better at too, is, getting those people in North Queensland understanding that there's opportunities like this and they're not forgotten, and that we want them involved in this process, and right across the rest of Queensland, rest of Australia. So I think that was one thing with our awards this year. We had people from all over Queensland joining us for a virtual awards, which, in the past we'd have one or two people, particularly if they're finalists, they'd fly down from maybe Cairns or Mackay or Rockhampton or something, or Townsville. But yeah, it was interesting this year, the number of people who joined us from all over the place. It was really good to see. So yeah, there has been some strange things obviously this year, but I think there's also been some benefits, and we need to learn from the positives that have come out through it. So yeah, but yeah, I'd agree. We do need to get some face-to-face things happening, and it's a matter of how we do it and making sure we do it in the right way, and and get them booked in and get them happening. So we'll be looking at a few different options there. So yeah, but at the moment there's not enough space left in my head to actually plan stuff like that. So I need my decompression over the holidays and have a bit of a break, and then we can get back and actually get into it.
Yeah, look, it's Tom Vaughan again. One of the other organisations I'm involved in is Disaster Relief Australia, and they had their state presentations. And so in each of the state capitals, they had their presentation night, but they were all linked via Zoom so that all the states could get involved in the other states' presentation awards, which was a really interesting concept as well.
Yeah, it's good to see some of that use, Tom, of the technology that people have done this year. Like, some of it's been forced on us, but some of it is probably stuff we probably thought, at some point, it'd be nice to do that, but you just didn't get around to doing it because you didn't have to. Whereas I think this year there's been a bit of, it's change or, disappear. So you got to stay relevant. So I think there'll be some of the things that we've learnt this year will definitely continue, and other things, I think there's good reasons to go back to how we've done it for so long. So we just have to find the right balance, I think.
Dom, are you going to do a best of bloopers reel that you're going to post out there, man?
I haven't been any bloopers, mate.
I heard that in the last Zoom. It's like, that's a great idea.
Yeah.
I have to go through all the thousands of hours of footage and blooper it out. Edit.
Yeah, that'd be a pretty short episode considering the lack of bloopers here. So
it also sounds like kind of job you dumped on me there, David. And
that's your job, Mark. Yeah, but by Boxing Day, please. I want a blooper reel.
Mate, I think if it's a matter of Mark either having a holiday or we have a bloopers reel, I'd rather he has a holiday, to be honest. So yeah, then you just have to if you want to, they're all available online. So feel free, mate. You have the imprimatur to make a bloopers reel, as long as obviously it wouldn't do anything to embarrass anyone, because no one would do that.
No, not at all.
All right, we might finish up on the lack of bloopers, and thank you all again for all your contributions throughout the year, and for all the work that has been done to make sure the outdoors is a safe and accessible place for so many people, and a terrific place to spend time and have great experiences. So thank you very much, and thanks for joining us, and have a great break if you have one, and see you next year, hopefully.
Yeah, thanks, folks, and Merry Christmas.